Yo, Lob Squad back here with another video, and today we're not talking about basketball. We're venturing out, we're talking about football, but not just football, we're talking about fantasy football, everyone's favorite.
Oh, yeah.
And we're more specifically, we're going to be talking about the top 10 running backs that you guys should be drafting in your fantasy leagues this year. How are you guys doing? We have a new guest here, Jack Mullins. How are you doing?
Good.
You doing
Thanks
good?
for asking.
Always vibing.
Okay, that's great to hear. You guys excited to talk about some football right around the corner?
I'm excited.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yep.
Full PPR.
Football season.
Yeah,
Nice.
our league's full PPR, so take that with a grain of salt. If your league's standard, might change some of these opinions, but for the most part, I think they're going to be consensus.
Running backs is pretty consistent.
Yeah. Unless it's like a catching running back.
Yeah.
You always have your
Yeah.
PPR legends, the Tariq
Le'Veon
Cohen's.
Bell.
Le'Veon Bell. So we're going to get started here. Nick, you want to go first? Who's your number one running back on your list?
So, didn't play much last season, but I still have Christian McCaffrey.
Mhm.
When he did play, I think played 3 games. He was dominant. I think he had 30 in 2 of those games.
Yep.
He averaged 30.
He averaged 30, my bad. So probably 30 next
I
year.
had him last year.
Yeah, so he's crazy good. Obviously, when he was healthy, he was the best running back, but not by far, but pretty obviously.
Yeah.
He should be healthy this year. Again, obviously injuries does have a part in it, but I do predict he'll be healthy, and I don't really think there's much competition for this number 1 spot.
I think that's a really good point. Do you think the addition of Sam Darnold at quarterback, is that going to kind of derail some of his value? I'm not saying, obviously, he's not going to be a good running back. He's going to be a
Yeah.
top running back. He's
It's
going to be our RB1. But do you think his value goes down for like the number 1 pick in any way?
I think his
I
value
don't see
goes
how
up.
it could. I mean,
It
I
goes-
think Darnold's better than Bridgewater.
I
do,
think
that-
I think
oh,
it goes
There's
up
potential.
because
There's potential that Darnold is used more than Bridgewater.
I think it goes up because they lost Curtis Samuel, so he'll get some more looks in the passing game, which leads to more fantasy.
They also
That-
lost Mike Davis. Who,
Oh yeah.
he's number 1 running back now in Atlanta. So
Yeah, but no, I think. Yeah, I feel like again, Mike Davis did decent last season.
He had some pretty good
He did
games.
He had
really
a couple of
good.
good games, but that's because McCaffrey's out. McCaffrey's playing. He's gonna get the touches.
Yeah.
Obviously, a change in quarterback's huge, but I feel like McCaffrey is just so dominant when he was healthy. I'm not sure who's gonna.
And
really
the other
contend
thing
for
about
right now.
McCaffrey is it's not just a running threat. Catches the ball,
That's
he's
right.
just as good as a wide receiver in many
Exactly.
ways. So,
He
anyone
can do
else?
it all. He's got
Yeah. Anyone else have any variation from that, or is he
No.
number 1
You can
player?
put Kamara at number 1, but I have him number 2. Kamara is very high volume.
Exactly.
One's better
But the
than
problem is
touchdowns.
they're losing Drew Brees, which is a
Goes 2 ways.
goes to it.
If they have Mike Thomas, they're dumping it off more to Kamara, which is good. If they don't have Mike Thomas, who are the other receivers they have?
Traquan Smith.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not a lot of big names.
Then they
Yeah.
might be rushing
Not a lot.
Kamara, then he gets screwed over. So depending on which way it goes, he could end up being the number 1
and if
overall.
they have Taysom Hill at quarterback, then that might affect things.
It makes
Yeah.
more sense to take him second.
Again, the thing about
because of
Jameis
that.
Winston that I've noticed is he's a good deep ball threat, I believe. His short and mid-range game is weaker than his deep ball.
Well, that's good
Yeah.
then, because they push it back and then they get Kamara the ball. I don't watch Saints football. I
That's-
don't watch a lot of football. I know the stats.
I mean, I think that's a really good
Alex.
point. When you think about a player like Alvin Kamara, similar to McCaffrey, he can run the ball. He's also really great in the passing game. And Drew Brees, when he was quarterback, he did like throw down the dump downs. But I think a player like Jameis Winston, who will throw the ball deep a little bit more often, to switch it up a little bit, I do think he's going to be just as valuable in the last few years. And I wouldn't be surprised if I wouldn't have him as number 1, but I think you can make a great argument for number 2.
Alright.
My number 2 is Dalvin Cook.
Dalvin Cook as
I
well.
think he's gonna be. He has all the touches, carries in the world, especially in that offense with Kirk Cousins, Adam Thielen, and Justin Jefferson. They're gonna make a. They're gonna open up the field for Kamara or Cook to run the ball through.
Again, I thought Cook was awesome last season. Again, with McCaffrey out, Cook was arguably the best running back, I'd say.
Yeah.
Going.
When he
was.
wasn't injured.
Where he wasn't
Was
injured.
Thielen out for part of last season?
What's up?
Was Thielen ever injured last season? Or
He had-
He was a little, yeah.
He was a little banged up at points, but not like anything more than like a week or
Nothing
two.
that would affect.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
I think Cook had a couple multi-touchdown games, which is huge in fantasy, especially for running backs.
Yeah.
Again, yeah. Again, he was awesome last season, probably the top running back last season. So I think, besides McCaffrey, who was injured last season, he's the best option.
Do you think is there any concerns when it comes to? I mean, this is for any player, but Dalvin Cook, prior to last season, has had a lot of injuries issues in his past. You think that could?
I
Come
feel
back,
like
or
when it comes to this point, at the top of the draft, I feel like you can't really. You gotta think about the potential and the talent, because there's gonna be injuries no matter where you go.
Mhm.
That's just football.
Yep.
So I feel like you just go for what you think is going to happen without injuries,
Yep.
and then go in. Obviously, if someone is injured going into the season, that's a little bit different.
Some great draft advice from Nick Wilson
Yes.
right
So
there.
I got Saquon Barkley at number 2,
Oh.
and I know he is coming into the season injured.
Yep.
You could say, but he might only be out for like the first couple games. I don't really see him getting injured after that. I mean, he's a young guy, so and I think if Cook and him are healthy, I would take Barkley over Cook. That's just my opinion. I think they'll both be healthy next season, hopefully. So.
I do think the Giants' passing game has gone. They added some pieces.
They had Kenny Galladay.
Exactly. big
Re-signed. They
pieces.
re-signed
It's
Sterling
true, but
Shepard, I
I
believe.
mean,
Well,
the
that's good.
Vikings, they have Jefferson and Thielen.
It's
so-
good for the running
Yeah,
backs.
but
to
at
have
the same
that.
time, last season they had Jefferson and Thielen, and Cook was still probably the best running back
Yeah.
out there.
Giants have a trash O line though. I own Saquon, and like he's a big play kind of guy, not a every down kind of guy. In my experience, like if he gets his breakaway, he gets a ton of points. So it's just your preference at that
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
And then and Dalvin Cook, even though that the Vikings have a lot of other weapons, as we
Mhm.
said, with Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, they like to assert their offense mainly with the run first, then open up the
Yeah.
play action for Kirk Cousins. So I would say, I do think Dalvin Cook is the more valuable player coming into the season. But obviously, after a few weeks, if Saquon Barkley is looking good, the Giants are better than we expect. I think the Giants are not going to be awful, but
I think they'll make a playoff push.
I mean the NFC East is
Yeah, and
always,
very weak.
always
that's right.
weak. Even
Extremely-
if you look at
extremely
some of
weak.
these teams on paper, they're just
Football team.
they're never that good.
Yeah, man. I do like Barkley, but I'm not sure if he's number 2, especially with injury going into
I
the
have
league.
Zeke ahead of him.
With Zeke ahead of him.
Zeke had a Barkley or Zeke at number 2?
Zeke ahead of Barkley.
Oh, okay. I
You
think
had
that's
a-
Zeke
fair.
has a better O line.
You and Kamara too, right?
Yeah, well, my list would go McCaffrey, Kamara, Cook, Zeke.
Mm.
Oh,
I don't know
Zeke
who
at
after.
4.
Yeah. Oh, is there another back I'm missing in the top 5 besides Saquon?
Well, let's get to that. Who do you guys have at number 3?
Derrick Henry.
I had Henry.
Derrick
Oh,
Henry.
yeah.
Number
Forgot
3,
about Henry.
I have Derrick,
No.
Dalvin Cook.
You're Dalvin
I
Cook.
put Henry after Zeke.
Zeke.
Because
Okay.
Julio's there.
That's a good point. Yeah, their offense is definitely different. I would admit, Derrick Henry, he's had some awesome games. He did have a couple games where he didn't score a ton. I think it was like 10-ish.
You can
Yeah,
make the
he had
argument
an
that
8 game, a 10, a 12.
Julio's a
That's
yard guy,
former.
not a touchdown guy, and isn't Henry a touchdown back? Don't they throw him in the end zone? A lot of his stats come off touchdowns. though.
Derrick Henry?
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
He's
a
a
goal line guy. You
Yeah,
always
so
give it to him.
maybe it won't disrupt it. Maybe Julio will get the passes for the yardage,
Yeah.
and then he'll finish
Henry's
it
not
off.
really like a receiving back. He's more of a like.
The thing
Yeah,
is,
he's
more
more
of a
of a
striker,
the thing
yeah.
is with Derrick Henry, is you do kind of have to count on some of those big plays to get a lot of points.
Yeah.
But you know that the Titans, for them to win, they have to run the ball. Like he's like Dalvin Cook. They're
So,
gonna give him the ball.
Yeah.
It's just what does he do?
I know last season though, they went into the season saying Derrick Henry is our focal point on everything on offense.
I think he still is.
He's still
even with
but again,
Julio
you do
Jones.
have a
And AJ Brown.
AJ Brown's still there. Julio Jones is there.
They
Julio
lost
Jo-
Jonnu.
But I don't think it's
John-
Johnny,
personally. I don't think it's a issue of who they have for weapons on the outside.
Yeah.
I think it's a Tannehill issue. You look at the type of quarterback he is.
I thought Tannehill had a decent season.
He is, but he's a play action quarterback. Play action quarterbacks benefit from a good running game.
Yeah.
So I would say that
I'm just saying his production might go down slightly.
it could.
I still have him
Well,
at 3.
Yeah, well, because I mean, like,
That's what
he had
they-
2,000 rushing yards.
Exactly.
There has to be a reason they got Julio, right? I mean, they're probably planning not to run as much just because Henry can't keep having those amount of carries and like stay out there. It's like it's
Mhm.
not
It's impossible.
physically possible for a running back.
No,
Really.
the guy is superhuman.
I think personally the reason why they went out and get Julio is they just want to make their offense more versatile. Every team that plays against them knows for us to have a good chance to win, we have to stop the run game. So you add a player like Julio Jones, not saying they're going to be throwing him the ball 10, 12 times a game, but just him, the type of player he is, the type of threat he is down the field, I think he puts a lot of pressure on the secondary of the opposing team, which opens up the run game for Derrick Henry. It's a few ways.
Okay, I still have him at 3, but I'm just saying I would if his production went down slightly, I would not be surprised.
So Cole, you had him at 3.
Yeah, I don't think 3.
Dan Mullins, who do you guys have at 3?
I have Dalvin Cook.
That's
And then
Dalvin Cook.
You said Dalvin Cook. Okay, so we already kind of discussed what Dalvin Cook brings to the table.
I also want to bring up how Barkley has Jason Garrett as offensive coordinator, and I don't know if you know this, but Jason Garrett on the Cowboys would run the ball a lot. DeMarco Murray, he was one of the best running backs in fantasy a couple years ago. So I think his type of offense would really benefit for.
Wasn't Murray on the
Barkley.
Eagles when he was?
No, he was.
after.
Yeah, he was on
okay, my
the
bad.
Cowboys, was his big team.
I think it was before we had like our.
He was on the Eagles. He was good for the Cowboys, and then he had one really good season for the Titans, and then
Yeah.
kind of I don't know, he fell off and I think he retired.
I still have Zeke at 4 because
Zeke
he
at
didn't
4?
play with a healthy team last year. I don't think
Yep.
at any point.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's a good point.
So I had Zeke lower just because of last season.
Uh-huh.
With the Dak, he did play well. Again, this is how well Dak comes back.
His whole
Well,
line
it's
was
not
gone,
his,
too.
his offensive line was.
They're really
Yeah,
good.
I think that's a good
Yeah.
point. The offensive line was not great last season, and they're all coming
They were
back
just
healthy.
banged up.
What's their receiving core again?
Amari
Yeah.
Cooper, I think you're
CeeDee
gonna,
Lamb.
I think you're gonna get a really big
And
yeah.
Gallup.
Michael Cooper.
I'm really high on CeeDee Lamb. I think he's a player that people are
yeah.
gonna.
No,
I think most people know that he's gonna have a really good second year.
I think Zeke is gonna be good then. Much better than last year at least.
Oh,
he
yeah.
did fumble. Like there was a stretch where he was fumbling quite a bit.
He also
That's
slimmed
because the
down.
line sucks.
Yeah.
But
He's an evasive
Is,
back.
is Tony
Big dude
Pollard
that
still on the
plays
team? Is
evasive back.
that
Yeah, Tony
Tony
Pollard's like
Pollard's
the.
he did start?
running back.
he
Kind of
does
Carolina.
like-
I'm not saying he's
got
a threat to
decent-
Zeke, but he might take a
He
few
got a
carries.
decent amount of touches
That's-
for the back.
yeah, he did.
Backup. That's,
Yeah.
yeah, I had Zeke a lot lower.
The only reason why it wouldn't be good is if he just like lost his motivation, which I guess is kind of a minor
Kind of.
factor.
Mhm.
He set up pretty well this year.
Again, COVID wise, I heard he just got COVID. Like,
No, that was last June.
that was last
Yeah,
year.
last June. No, because he came out and said that like he's not a big vaccine guy, but he got the COVID-19
Oh,
vaccine.
okay. Didn't he test
Just-
positive? Was he the one that tested positive again? He didn't test
That was
positive twice.
Lamar.
He d-
Lamar Jackson.
Lamar Jackson
Test
tested
positive.
positive
Did
twice.
Zeke do it? Okay, no.
Don't believe
I
so.
I'm
know.
sure
No,
Dak
Zeke was out
Prescott
last
also
season.
had
COVID.
COVID.
Yeah.
But I don't know. He had a rough season last year.
Mhm.
It was the Dallas Cowboys.
For
as a
his
whole.
standards, but yeah,
Exactly,
He
yeah.
wasn't great.
He's
So
a
I
big
had him a
upside
lot
and a
lower.
safe pick. I think he's actually a safe pick.
I also agree with that. I think he's gonna have a bounce back season.
I have Kamara at 4, but
I have
we already
Kamara
talked
too.
about it.
I also have Kamara. I actually don't have Zeke in my top 10.
Ooh.
Ooh.
I understand your vote.
Well, who's next? Next, I might be forgetting people.
Is it like a forget issue or is it just?
Well, I think
just don't
for
believe him?
PPR, I think there's better options, but I also just don't believe that he's gonna get much better after last season. Like I don't know, like he's just getting older. I mean,
Yeah, he did have a rough season last year. That's why you guys seem pretty set on him. I'm not as set on him. I do have him as a top 10 back. Pretty.
Who's next on the list?
Yeah.
We're at number 5 here, so.
I'd say Saquon.
I got Zeke at 5.
Damn.
I have Austin Eckler.
Ooh.
I honestly, the thing is,
I
I don't
like-
think
I like
he's.
Eckler.
Yeah, I like him too, but I don't think he's a top
Yeah,
5
no.
back. And no, I think he's gonna have a good season. When he's healthy, he's good.
Situation's too good for Justin Herbert to pass tackler. I feel like
Yeah.
they have a lot of stuff going
They
on.
had a couple when Eckler came back and Herbert was starter. They did do a couple of dump offs to Eckler, but I think he played well in 2 of the 4 games.
I want to see his
I think
stats.
towards the end.
The,
he only
the
had-
big thing about the Chargers is their main priority in the offseason this year was to get Herbert some protection. Went out, got what's his name, Rashawn Slater out of Northwestern, offensive lineman. They went out, got a veteran offensive, I think a center. I forget who it is, but they got 2 key acquisitions on the offensive line, which obviously it's going to help Herbert because they needed some pass protection, but I think it also could benefit Eckler. He's another guy in a PPR league. He gained some value because he's not just a runner. He
He's
can catch
definitely
the
catching-
ball.
Yeah,
More
he's-
receiving
I'm
than
looking at it
rushing.
right now. He's not touchdown reliant whatsoever. He had 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Sorry, 3. 2 receiving, 1 rushing, and he still did pretty good.
Yeah.
If he,
Yeah, safe.
Again, he hits the yards.
He's out for a
and if
while
he gets
last
more
year.
touchdowns, like that's gonna make him more valuable.
I think
Honestly.
it's and for the viewers watching this. I do think when you're looking at running backs, Mullins brings up a really good point about is the running back touchdown reliant or is he a guy that's going to get his consistent touches? He's going to give you about the same amount of yards every game and doesn't need that touchdown to get you over the hump. So like as we're talking here, Austin Eckler, a player like that, he's going to give you 10 to 12 yards every week, probably, or 10 to 12 points
off.
every week, just purely based off of his rushing and his passing yards.
Receiving.
So if he gives you a touchdown or 2, then you're looking at 20, 26 points, which is that's a really good week.
I don't think he has enough upside for me to take him in that early.
Yep.
Exactly.
I agree.
Plus, that was a really tough injury he had. I think he was out for.
What did he do?
I know he came back.
Was it ACL?
Not
Other than that, he hasn't had much
that's true.
injury history.
Fair.
Yeah.
I think it was a thigh.
It was something.
or like hamstring. Maybe.
hamstring. Yeah, something else is left. He just ran real quick. Whatever. Yeah, and he did come back. He did okay.
Seems like you're kind of changing your point as a fantasy owner of him last year. You were saying how he's gonna come back the same, and I was telling you, I was like, he's not gonna come back the same. Well, he did come back the same.
He has to say that
And
as an owner.
He did when the playoffs came. He did only put up like 12 points. The one, which was fine.
he'll put up 29 points.
Yeah, they put.
They put
What was the player on your team that put up a lot of points that was really surprising?
Miles Sanders.
Miles Sanders.
He sold, and then I put him on the bench, and then he played.
I
well
wouldn't have
for one
started him
game.
either.
No,
He
he's
sold
just
from
not on my list after last.
He's an
season.
injury.
I think 12 points is much better than a Chubb 12 points where he punched in a touchdown and got like a couple passes from
At
the
the same time, Chubb is a lot more consistent on touchdowns.
Is that a transition year? Or?
I have Chubb at 6.
Oh, great.
I
Nice.
go Chubb
wow.
at 6.
Coming
I
off that
know.
fresh extension.
I do. Going into last season when they were trying to do the Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb thing, I was a little bit against it.
Yeah.
Because there's two basically equal backs going
Yeah.
into it, which isn't always the best for fantasy. For the team, that's pretty good, but for
Yeah.
fantasy, not so much.
Yeah,
But
that's
Chubb
fair.
again, he's kind of like Derrick Henry, where he's going to grind out those points.
Mm-hmm.
He's obviously he's bigger and stronger. He's just going to run through you.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure how long that would last, but it did end up working last season. Again, this is kind of another thing based off last season where it worked. So why wouldn't it work this year again?
I also think you look at a team like the Browns. Last season they had a positive year for once. They got to the playoffs, got to the second round. And if they could take some of that momentum for the last part of the season where their offense was clicking, and they didn't even have Odell Beckham Jr., if they get him back, they're going to have I think they're going to have one of the best offenses in the league.
I'm not touching the Browns though.
You know,
Their spreads are everywhere. They pass it. The ball goes to random people every time, or it's equally distributed. I don't think anyone has star potential in that offense until further proof.
yeah. I think out of their offense, though, Nick Chubb's most
See,
but
I can agree with you,
it's too
but I
risky
don't
for
think
me.
it takes some of the fantasy value off some of these players. I thought about that last year with a player like Jarvis Landry. Didn't draft him. He had his best year
great year.
as a fantasy player.
He's a chance.
A player that, when he was in Miami, was more like a wide receiver 1 or 2. Not fantasy-wise, but on that team. You come to a team like the Browns, he's their wide receiver 2, but they have a lot of other weapons. So it frees him up. He's giving you more consistent points. So I do think there is some value in some of these players. When you talk about Nick Chubb, it could lower some of his value based off him being like a top 5 pick or top 6 pick in this case.
Yeah. But again, the guys that have after him, I don't think.
I was a Chubb owner last year, but I just remember when Kareem Hunt ever got in the game, I was worried because this guy could also be one of the best running backs in the league and take a lot of carries with Chubb, and also he also showed to take a lot of receptions from Chubb as well last year. So PPR wise, I don't know if I can trust Chubb all the time.
So wherever you draft him if you were this year, like
well, my list had him number 9
Okay.
running backs, so
So
probably
who
a
do you-
second round player.
who do you guys have at number 6? Who
I have
your
Barkley.
cast? Barkley, okay, we talked about Barkley a little
I
bit.
have Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry.
7, I have Aaron Jones.
Well, Moles, who do you have at 6?
I don't know, because my list, I only have like a comprised thing. I think Aaron Jones is to be in the talk right now, though, for whatever spot we're about to
Yeah,
discuss.
I have
Aaron Jones at 7.
I looked at Chubb, by the way. I was undervaluing him a little bit. I got his stats wrong in my head, but he is touchdown line for sure.
Yeah. But at the same time, when they're on that line, they're not usually going to go to Kareem Hunt in that situation. If they're,
Yeah, no, for sure. They go to him or they pass it.
Exactly.
My concern is they pass it.
They're going to front punch in. But Aaron Jones, though, I don't have him in. Where are we on? So
Number 7, we're looking at
7, I got to take. I don't have Aaron. Aaron Jones is my top 10, but fair.
Okay.
I
Well,
have Aaron
plead your
Jones.
case here.
He has a great quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, the last dance, possibly. So yeah, but also he's a great receiver. Comes out of the backfield, catches some a little bit, but he also runs the ball effectively, even though he doesn't really get many. Well, he does get all the carries for all of them, but like not as many as he.
They still have Jamal Williams?
Yeah, they use Jamal
No, they
Williams.
don't.
He's on the
Oh, did they?
Lions.
The Lions, yeah.
Yeah.
They did utilize Jamal
Who they
Williams
had? They
quite
had a
bit.
different guy came in,
They
said
had
something.
AJ Dillon.
Eddie
AJ Dillon was starting to come on a little bit. They're not saying he's going to take
They took multiple back. Well, they had like a bunch of COVID. I think Aaron Jones got hurt, and then Jamal Williams had COVID, so they took like 2 back.
Oh, okay.
But
So-
they also still have like Devontae Adams, obviously, not just gonna throw the ball. It's a
Richard Tanya.
pass heavy offense. So
Yeah, I think you go with a player like Aaron Jones purely based off the fact that Packers playing that's a high octane offense.
yeah.
You know when he's playing, he's gonna get his touches. I think he is touchdown reliant. That's what scares me about him. But He's always good. Like every 2 to 3 games, he'll break out and give you like a 50 to 60 yard run. But when he does give you that,
So 2 years ago, his end of the season, he made it great. He was doing awesome.
Yeah.
He really pushed himself into like the top running.
and he was picked up on the waiver wire in our league
I don't
2
know
years
how
ago.
that. But last year, he had
Due
like,
to someone who's not in our league anymore.
But last year I had him.
Yeah.
He did well at the beginning of the year. He was awesome. And then last 5 weeks he really fell off. Like struggling to get struggling to get double digits, which isn't great.
Does that scare you coming into
That
this
does
season?
scare me a bit. Plus Rodgers, we know he's coming back, but for how long? I don't know.
Last dance.
That's the idea, but it's, like he has.
It can scare me.
There's been so much stuff going back and forth between him and the organization that
I also think
it's almost uncertain.
just for the pure fact that he's coming back, like I think they're always a team that throws the ball up, but I think they're gonna throw it even more. Like I think they're gonna throw the ball a lot.
They added Randall Cobb too. Cause
Yeah, that was
Rogers really wanted him
Yeah.
there, so like.
He's always a player that always lurks on the bench. Sometimes when you need those 9 points, doesn't come through on the flex. But
He's pretty open.
I do like Randall
I
Cobb.
struggle to play the whole season.
I don't know. He just he was inconsistent last season,
Mhm.
which does scare me going in.
Yep.
And there's a couple guys who I'm predicting to kind of have a boom season,
Like
or
who?
one guy I'm predicting.
Okay, so who's this?
I have Antonio Gibson. So I have Aaron Jones at 10 and Antonio Gibson at 9.
Who's at 7?
I had Zeke at 7, then
Oh.
Eckler. Then.
Do you guys have any?
I have Aaron Jones at 7.
Aaron Jones, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think Gibson's that high for me just because the new quarterback they're gonna have Fitzmagic throwing at Terry McLaurin. You know if they have a secondary receiver now, it's all right.
They
Yeah,
had
they signed Curtis Samuel.
Curtis
Curtis
Samuel,
Samuel.
and they had
And
the
Logan Thompson.
Charles
Again-
Sims guy, right?
I didn't watch Washington football,
played
but I
pretty good
assume
last
that
season.
they were feeding Gibson because they had no other choices.
They have
Towards the
Logan
end,
Thomas,
so
too.
they started
McKissick,
off
is he
with
back?
J.D.
Yeah.
McKissick starting,
McKissick.
and then
He's a
They had
receiving
4
back.
QBs.
I know, but towards the end of the season, Antonio Gibson started picking up. He was a rookie last year.
Well, he
was rookie
okay.
second year last year.
Rookie.
Yeah, he was. But the main thing is, he only scored a lot of points because he had like a few games where he really like boomed. Like the
Towards the end of the year.
no, like the Thanksgiving game against the
The
Cowboys.
Cowboys?
He had like probably
Yeah,
30.
I think he had
something.
36. He had a lot.
Yeah,
Oh,
he
Again, towards the end of the season, this is where this all picked up.
Mhm.
He was not scoring that many points the first 5.
He was also a rookie though. Like
Exactly.
maybe he's just
Yeah.
trying
And
to
then he started to get more and more and more
get the
touches,
feet wet
and he
and
started
just
hitting up.
rolling, Yeah.
He's just gonna be. I'm assuming he's just gonna be better his second year.
Uh-huh.
And again, J.D. McKissick.
Because
Yeah, he's a receiving back. He's a receiving back or whatever, and that's not Antonio Gibson's thing. But they started utilizing him more. I saw a lot more production.
Mhm.
He did have some big games. So
Yep.
I think the boom potential in him might be higher than Aaron Jones going into this year, and that's why.
Interesting
I have him
point. I do think Antonio Gibson he's a good pick.
I think Aaron Jones is a safer option.
Yeah.
above. Dude, yeah.
If you're
Like,
looking
if-
for upside in the first,
for Gibson, like if you're gonna if you have Aaron Jones and Antonio Gibson on the board, you're on the clock, taking Aaron Jones.
I'm thinking
I'm
Gibson.
Gibson.
I'm
I'm
thinking
taking Gibson. I'm taking Gibson. I'm taking Gibson. Imagine. First off, there's so many factors in the Green Bay right now. Sure.
There's not really that many. Rogers already came out.
Those
his
players have all
big
played,
press
though.
conference.
Yeah.
Like
I know,
It wouldn't
comeback
hurt
from last year,
Aaron
like-
Jones if Rodgers didn't.
You don't
Yeah, if
No, it
Rogers
would hurt
did.
him because it would be giving us a running back more
Exactly.
than a different.
No.
Aaron Jones.
You could
Aaron
argue that
Jones
Rodgers
touchdown
faces
reliant, and
it
he's
up,
also
Yeah.
he's a big receiving back. If you replace Rodgers with someone else, we're talking about the top QB in the league, and we're talking about a receiving back. That's gonna have a negative consequence on
But
him.
wouldn't another quarterback would drop the ball off to the running back more often.
You
Because
could
they
argue
can't
that-
make those throws to the receiver.
You would think
Rodgers
that, but at the
is
same
a
time, when
deep
they're doing
threat.
running plays and stuff
Yeah,
too, they
spaces
would
it
put
out.
in Jamal Williams a lot
He spaced
for
it up.
just running.
Well, he's
the
not
play.
there anymore.
I know he's not there anymore, but the idea that they're not playing Jones for running plays,
Well, I mean, he will be probably.
he could, but at the same time,
You gotta see it.
you gotta see. But at the same time, they'd rather put in the backup for more running plays than have Jones do it. Which you think about, isn't necessarily the best idea if you're losing your quarterback who is known for being such a great passer. You're losing that, which is a huge asset. Obviously, will that happen? Who knows?
I mean,
But
I think that you
I
can
think
also.
Gibson's boom potential is more than that.
I think you can also think of it in the way that like Drew Brees, he always gets injured. He always got injured
Mhm.
for the Saints, and like Kamara's value sometimes went up when he gets injured because they just give him the ball.
Yeah.
But when it was with Taysom Hill, it was pretty low.
Yeah, it was. But
Because Taysom Hill ran the ball.
But they also who did they have for a quarterback? The rookie Jordan Love.
Yeah, Jordan Love.
Could be. I mean, he's young.
I think I've never seen him play, but at the same time, again, just being like, yeah, they're just gonna run the ball more, but they weren't doing run plays with Jones. They were taking the backup inside, which I don't know. I don't feel safe if that's the case.
That's something that'll be a story that will develop as the season goes on.
Yeah.
What pick are we on? Number 8.
8. I got Eckler 8.
Eckler.
I have Jonathan Taylor.
I was gonna say I got a couple of players that I just kind of I around the same area, and
Jonathan Taylor.
that's Jonathan Taylor, who's a pure just rushing back. He gets like a couple passes. That's it. Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Chris Carson. They're all in the same area for me.
I'm high on Chris Carson.
Hilaire's not touchdown reliant at all, but he also doesn't have crazy games. He has mid games with no touchdowns.
This year. Whole new O-line. They signed Tooney. They just revamped their whole O-line. They also have obviously Mahomes, Tyreek Hill.
Do they have the guy that came back that didn't play last year because of COVID? Williams, Damian Williams.
No, he's gone.
They have Darren Williams or Darrell Williams.
There's a couple Williams.
And they don't have Le'Veon Bell anymore. So.
Oh yeah, okay.
Is Bell on the team this year?
No.
No.
I think that's free agent.
Yeah,
I think they
he's a free
He got picked up.
There's a super dark horse in Josh Jacobs, and the case for him is that he was really, really, really good a little bit ago, and they have Kenyon Drake now. He's still the lead back, I'm pretty sure.
Scares me.
But
even without Kenyon Drake, he scared me.
He did drop off.
Scares me more.
But at the same time, when he does have high room potential.
Durable. He's very durable. I owned him. I think I owned him the first year. I think I might have owned him at the end of last year sometime. But I thought.
I remember I drafted him and then Miles. I traded him with Miles.
I'm not sure, but if he gets injured, he comes back real quick, and he takes a lot of hits, and he's able to go through them. He's a pretty reliable back to have. I don't know if his boom potential's there or not.
Scares me in the sense that Kenyon Drake was known for getting those 1-yard touchdowns and.
Yeah.
Josh.
He also got paid by the Raiders. He got like 12
I don't know what they're doing.
I don't know.
Jacobs is 23.
Kenyon Drake did have he had a couple of weeks where.
Started to play well towards the end of the season, but he wasn't great before that.
I don't know. Again, that's kind of unknown. If Josh Jacobs is available later, like
It's more of a trade target kind of thing. You figure out how it pans out, and you go for what you want.
if you already have 2 running backs, and Josh Jacobs.
I think like 4th round.
Yeah.
He's not gonna
I
get
agree
this.
with that.
He'd be like an RB2.
Yeah, he's definitely an RB2.
If you have 2 backs, he's on the board.
If you have 2 backs on the board, you got to take him. That's what I'm thinking. RB2, he probably.
I think we should kind of switch it up a little bit, Dan. You had Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, so I would take Jonathan Taylor over guys like Jacobs and Helaire just because I think he was a little bit like below Gibson last year, like production wise, and Carson Wentz might be injured for a majority of the first part of the season.
Yeah.
So I think he'll get a lot of touches, and they have a good offensive line, which also has some injuries. But
Yeah, Quentin Nelson, he is going to be injured. For
I just see Jonathan Taylor getting a lot of work this year.
Yeah,
The Colts know how to use a bell cow back. Marlon Mack 2 or 3 years ago was really, really good when he was their only person that they really relied on. They had
Naheem Hines
T.Y.
last
Hilton,
year.
like, all the
And
time,
Naheem Hines was. He
was
had
good.
some weeks.
He was a good catching. He was a really good catching.
Yeah, but I think now that they have their bell cow back and Jonathan Taylor, he could get a lot of points. They seem to know how to do that.
I feel like he's more of a solid kind of. He's going to get his points each week. I'm not sure.
I think he's going to be a focal
potential.
point of their offense.
Yeah.
I think he's like for me he's like 11.
I have him at 10.
I think the thing is,
I think he's a
when you
solid,
look at a team like the Colts, it's something that's very underrated when you think about fantasy. And this should not weigh too much when you're coming into drafting. But the Colts play in the AFC South. The AFC South is going to be the weakest conference in the entire division.
We play the Texans twice.
You play the Texans twice. You play the Jaguars, who have a terrible defense, twice. You play what's the other team there?
Titans.
Titans are pretty good.
Titans got a good team.
Yeah.
But even throughout the last few years, like the Colts have always, it feels like they have a good defense this year, like they did last year, and they're always a team that for some weird reason has those big first halves. They'll come out, score a lot of points in the first half. They make fantasy owners happy, other than T.Y. Hilton owners. Those have been sad the last few years, rightfully so. But I mean,
again, I think he's more of like a consistent. He'll get you like 14, 15 a week.
Yeah.
As opposed to going.
Taylor?
Yeah. I think he's more of a consistent guy.
I just see him being. I think 14 or 15 sounds right, but I think he's gonna be. He's a big red zone guy. I know Naheem Hines got a lot of touchdowns in the red zone. I think that might have been a tad bit of a fluke.
Yeah.
I think Jonathan Taylor will get some of those red zone touches this time around.
Does anyone know if Gaskin might have a good role this year? I don't know.
Yeah, he's like their main guy.
Yeah, I think
Riley.
Gaskin's right up there, like right below everyone we just discussed.
He's
Their next back is like Salvin Ahmed, I think.
he
He didn't really play because only Gaskin had injuries.
Yeah, we get Gaskin.
the only thing that scares me a little about Gaskins is I had him for a little bit last year. Good player. He kind of gives you a little bit of everything. He can catch the ball. He runs it. But when he was getting the rushing attempts, it didn't seem like he was getting a lot of production. He was giving you a lot of 2-yard runs, 3-yard runs, occasionally 1-yard runs, which they're a young team, so they're still building their offensive line, still building their offense, and I expect Tua to be better this year.
I think their wide receiving core is pretty good.
Yeah, there is.
Jalen
Offense
Waddle.
should be
Waddle.
better this year, so
Devontae
they get more
Parker,
red zone.
Will Fuller this
Who else they have? Preston Murphy?
Preston Williams.
Preston Williams.
They
Devontae
also
Parker.
have
Devontae Parker's still there.
tight end.
Gesicki, yeah, they
Yeah.
they do have actually.
I'm not sure if Tua's ready to be like a.
I've heard Tua's been pretty good at camp.
Mhm.
Training camp, yeah.
They say I heard a thing saying last year he struggled to learn the playbook, but this year he knows it a lot better. So hopefully that
I don't expect like a huge leap.
Helps
and that was also just a weird move by Brian Flores when he changed out
Yeah.
Tua or Fitzpatrick for Tua.
Yeah.
Like they had some.
Weren't they on like a winning streak?
Yeah, they were 5-3,
Patrick?
and then that happened.
Yeah.
So.
We'll see.
Hopefully, we have some breakout backs because we have kind of a shallow pool this year. I feel like.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We had a shallow pool last year too, right?
Yeah.
I'm
James Robinson.
sad
I
about.
feel like where's James Robinson in all this?
James
He's
Robinson's pretty
down.
low.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
But
did
they
draft
drafted-
Travis Etienne.
Yeah.
His production over time is a little interesting. It's just
Yeah,
It's
I hope
here
the
now.
Rams trade for him. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, I feel bad for Cam Akers. I thought he was gonna be pretty good last year.
Cam Akers would probably. Would he be on?
I think he'd be top
Probably
10.
He would have been.
Top 15, I'd say.
He's
yeah.
like a player like
He's like Taylor.
he's like Aaron Jones in the sense that
Yeah.
like they're gonna have a high octane offense,
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
so he's gonna benefit.
Plus, he's a
from
young
that.
guy, so he's got big boom.
So now they have who's their starter? Darnell Henderson.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Darryl.
Darrell Henderson.
Yeah.
So
He's kind of a catching back.
no, he's not. He's a
like
running guy.
He's like a ground.
He's a ground and pound guy.
They haven't. Oh, they were.
They had a catching back. Who did they have?
They had 3 they were running. with
Yeah, they
last
did,
year. Okay, that's
um,
fine. Never mind.
Malcolm Brown.
Malcolm Brown.
Yeah.
He also was a running guy.
Yeah.
That was a weird running back.
Is Mike Davis actually good as a running back, or is he just lucky?
No, he's good. I think
Okay,
he's
do
good.
you think with the absence of Julio then that they don't have a safe option, they'll start giving it to him more and he'll get
Yeah.
decent?
Possibly. They also drafted Kyle Pitts, though. Like they still have a lot of offensive weapons to pass you.
Calvin Ridley.
Yeah.
Calvin Ridley's more of a end zone guy to me.
Yeah.
I think he's gonna be like the guy though. I think
He'll
he's,
definitely be the guy.
Mike Davis would be the safe
think Mike
option
Davis
instead of
will be-
Julio.
I mean, they had last year Julio, but like Calvin Ridley was the most productive player in that offense.
Yeah.
Well, Julio was injured.
Yeah, but still, I mean, I know that he was injured, but like even when he was there, it seemed like Calvin Ridley was putting up better numbers than Julio.
Another guy that we haven't mentioned yet, Najee Harris. I just want to bring him up because I think he could be a great player
Is this for the
this
Steelers?
season. Yeah.
I know
I mean,
nothing about the Steelers.
There's usually always a rookie running back that like really does well.
That's
The
a- that's a really
Steelers
good point.
give the touches. Like James Conner was getting 20.
They
They had to
they-
revamp their whole
They
offense.
they
James
also
Conner's injured.
what's it called got a new offensive coordinator, and I was listening to an interview with Ben Roethlisberger, and he was talking about how he was like last year biggest weakness with our entire offense was our run game. Weren't able to get that going at any point. He thinks that with this new offensive coordinator, they're gonna make it more of a priority running the football in your first and second downs, and then I mean they have a really good offense. They have Juju, Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson. That's a 3-headed monster on the
Yeah.
outside.
Eric Ebron.
So,
Tight end.
I mean, I think if they get a reliable running back, and you've seen with teams like the Patriots, like, you can use young running backs. Like, if they're ready to play, which most of them are, like, Najee Harris was really good in college. I could see his game translating right away.
I also think just like the Steelers were very pass heavy last year, and I think as a team you can't go into the next season like the same mindset. So
Yep.
I think they should hand the ball off more this year, and Harris would be a great weapon to use in their offense.
They did still have some games last year though where James Conner was getting 20 attempts per game.
It's cut. No, because they had to like switch up their offense because he was
Yeah,
injured.
essentially. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why.
James Conner's also.
I don't think James Conner's not very comparable to
Yeah, that's the only
Najee
problem.
Harris.
Yeah.
Exactly. But
I mean, he did have some good seasons, but
Yeah.
I think this is a good point to end the video. We're going to be coming back, talking about other positions, top wide receivers, top tight ends. But for now, comment down below, who do you think your top 10 running backs are coming into this year's draft? And Like and subscribe, and peace.